Alright, so here we are in my project. I call it Sickly Emergent. Each, to lay some groundwork here, each of the hexagons you see on screen are known as sicklings. They are either ill or they're healthy. In this case, the blue ones are healthy and the green ones are ill. We'll get into a little bit more specifics later, but as it stands right now, if the blue ones stay too close for too long to the ill ones, they will also turn ill. The blue ones will also actively try to avoid each other, as you can see with some of these little collisions that are happening. So I'll just walk you through some scenarios. This one right now is the most basic, 10 to 2. That means there are 10 total sicklings and 2 sick ones. So not much is happening in this one, obviously. The sick ones are sadly not in great enough numbers, and more accurately, the blue ones aren't dense enough to start overcrowding and letting the sick ones get to them. We'll see that here in a sec. So let's turn up the heat. We won't touch any other settings. This one up here just ups the total amount. And we're actually going to add no additional sicklings, but we're going to have 100, or no additional ill sicklings. We're going to have 100 total of them though. So let's reset to see that. You can see now they are much more capable of overcrowding. And we might see, yes, there's a little capture there as one of the ill ones manages to make one of the blue ones sick. Now, the ill ones, as it stands, are currently moving entirely randomly. But here's the thing. We can actually change that with chase mode. Chase mode means that all the ill sicklings will actively chase the closest non-ill sickling. Again, that would be the blue ones are the healthy, and the green ones are ill. So the ill ones will attempt to chase the nearest healthy one. Let's see that. And by the way, none of these settings apply until you hit reset. So now you can see like these green ones are attaching far more to their individual targets, attempting to get whatever captures they possibly can. Yeah, cool little mode. You can start to see how it creates a lot more empty space. But if we want to create a lot of empty space, we can start messing with some of our other settings. So let's say that we had maybe a few more sicklings to start. Just do that, show it off. It's not going to change the result. Sicklings are usually, the ill ones, are usually very efficient at taking down the blue ones. And it's rare you'll find a scenario where the blue ones actually can survive forever. Usually, low density and population is the main surviving factor. The less blue ones there are, or more accurately, the less total amount of sicklings on the screen, the better they do. You can also see in a scenario like this, the sick ones have gathered in a clump and are attempting to chase this blue one, who's actually kind of using the borders of the screen as a good way to hide. Now, that's entirely random, and that blue one could very easily walk right out into the open and get caught. At the same time, he's not going to want to get anywhere near the sick ones, and that's kind of, again, what I was explaining earlier. As you can see, because they started to spread out again, I know they did get him. And when they start to spread out again in chase mode, that means there's no other blue ones alive for them to chase. Alright, let's mess with a couple more of these settings. So let's bring down our sickling amount again. 100 is generally a good spot for the total amount, but the ill ones I'll bring down just a little bit. So here we have the speed settings, and they're kind of interesting. If we were to turn ill down all the way to 10% of the speed of the healthy ones, we can see here that they move very, very slowly. Well, we might see it here. They are still very much capable of capture. All they need to do is get one sandwich in between for just long enough. So that's another element we can modify. How long it takes for any given healthy sickling to get ill via an ill sickling. And that's just up here. So to see this move a little bit faster, we're going to reduce this time down to a single second. They only have to spend a second within their radius to become ill. And that radius is also entirely separately modifiable, distance to get ill, which right now is currently the same distance that the hexagons, the healthy ones, will stay away from the ill ones. So this is kind of a nice dichotomy, but we can change that. So let's reset. You're going to see here, boom, immediately they're getting a lot more captures very quickly. Even though they're moving incredibly slow, that capture time is brutal and spreads very quickly. So although the healthy ones are able to move fast, they can't really do much about a virus that's spreading this fast. Why don't we give them a little bit more speed and see what happens? Alright, so they're 2.5 times the original speed. See how it turns out. You can see when they get very fast, they get really wiggly. Not super easy to watch, but I tend to find that the faster they are, another factor that can really help the healthy ones actually survive. Because most of the time, as I've already said, they won't. You can kind of see here, like now that 10% is really weighing on these guys. They could still technically sandwich in a healthy sickling, but they are unlikely to. Generally, though, these are some really cool patterns. Kind of getting into maybe the meat of the emergent behavior here, but there are some really cool things to see, especially as we up the total amount of sicklings. So let's do that. Let's bring it up to a bit more heat at 350. Now, I will say, I set the limit at 500. My computer's pretty powerful, and 500 is definitely a bit of a pushing point, so I'd recommend staying away from it if possible. But if you're curious, you're curious. I'm not going to stop you. Let's go ahead and up their speed back up just a tad. That's the ill ones, and we're going to bring the healthy ones back down to their beginning point of 1, so we can see a little bit more density overall. We're also going to take off chase mode for now. So as you can see here, this is very brutal. They quickly spread through the population. Again, the more dense you get, the better the ill ones are at taking over the healthy population. But that's also from our time to get ill increase. So we're going to decrease that, increase the time. We'll go with just 2.5 should be good. So this is more what I'm looking for. This is a pretty cool bit of behavioral. You'll kind of see that where density lowers, you get these nice gaps and sometimes very hexagonal patterns. But as it gets more dense, you can see that it's losing all these little gaps. It actually really good showcase this left side to this middle, or even this right side to this middle, is this very nice structure that's slowly being broken down as they gain pressure and gain density. So, what causes that? So, when it comes to the behavior of blue sicklings, the healthy ones, they have a prioritization to their movement. Sick ones don't. The only time they do is when they have chase mode on. But when it comes to the blue ones, they care about staying away from the sick ones as much as they possibly can, and prioritize that above staying away from their brethren, the other blue ones. So you'll see as the sick ones kind of squish in their lines, that density grows and grows and grows and grows, because the blue ones are less scared to stack up as sick ones come in closer, because they prioritize getting away from the sick ones. Very, very cool behavior. Alright, I think for funsies, we will up a couple more distances I haven't touched. Let's bring this up back to 1. And let's see what happens if we up the distance. Healthy ones stay away from each other to the same as the sick ones. Bound to get interesting. So they want to spread apart. You're instantly noticing. Let's actually bring down the density so we can see it a little bit better. Yeah, you can very much see it. Look at this spread out pattern. All of a sudden they don't, if they have the room, they don't want to be close to each other. But I can tell you, and as you would have already seen, with that higher density, it really doesn't matter, because the sick ones are the primary thing to avoid, and they can't avoid stacking on each other. But with this, we can get very nice little structures in here. But again, they get right bunched up in these dense little clusters. Super cool. Alright, let's see what happens if we give sick ones a little bit more room. Now remember, Just because the healthy ones are avoiding them from a further distance doesn't mean that the ill ones have a further distance to infect. That's a separate stat. So now it's kind of a 1 unit difference between how far the blue ones will attempt to avoid them from and how close their infection radius is. And we'll swap the two, but right now, again, it's just the healthy ones keeping extra distance. So yeah, as you can obviously see, the sick ones are gaining much, much bigger radiuses around them, where the blue ones don't want to come anywhere near, which is fair enough. Doubt it's easy being a healthy sickling. But you can still see they're very good at getting little captures, and even on random movement. This is not chase mode. They are not going after any particular sickling. But still, even with random movement, they sometimes just crunch these ones in, and they can't do anything. And more infection spreads. Basically, most of these scenarios, the healthy ones will not win. If you see a single healthy sickling get captured by any ill one, that most likely is curtains for the entire scenario, given enough time. Alright, let's see what happens if we swap those same two values I was talking about. Now I can tell you, it's definitely not going to end good for the healthy ones. So let's bring this up to 3. So now, the radius at which they infect, and the radius at which they, the healthy ones attempt to avoid, is a difference of 1 once again, but now the healthy ones are willing to get within the range of the illness. This won't end well for them, because almost immediately they might be trying to avoid the ill ones, but they just can't. They are not far enough, so instantly, entire screen gone. Very high contrast compared to the other one we just had. So yeah, I would say that is about it. As you can see, I've also added a nice little feature for putting away this bar. I could have done it this time, but I like having the settings open. So yeah, really nice, just little convenience feature so you can kind of see the entire screen. And as I said, like the settings only apply the moment you hit reset. I also have, and this is just a technical thing, this will only ever go up to the total amount of sicklings and will increase whenever you increase and decrease as well. I had an issue where if you brought this past the total amount, it would crash the game. Thought I'd fix that. Either way, I hope you enjoyed this one. I genuinely really enjoyed working on it, and I hope to show it to some people. I thought this one was really, really cool. This emergent behavior simulation. So yeah, hope you have a nice day. It's a good time for me. See you again.